Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Green 19 podcast. I'm Dominique Yates. I'm joined by Ryan Wood and Tom Silverstein. You know, guys, I can go ahead and jump into what I love about the NFL so far and covering it, that you can expect the unexpected. A couple of weeks ago, we watched Joe Flacco against the Cleveland Browns and said, okay, you saw the vet. Here we are a couple of weeks later. You'll watch him again, except now with the Cincinnati Bengals. And that by itself is always fascinating just to examine. And I guess I'll get some just reactions on seeing that and just from you, Spoon, and then I'll go with you, Ryan, just getting ready for this matchup.
Well, you know, the Bengals are desperate. Not happy with their quarterback, Jake Browning, and I think they want to see if they can somehow stay in the playoff hunt until Joe Burrow gets back, which I don't know when that's going to be. But, you know, they had some other options, I suspect. You know, they probably could have tried to make an offer for Jameis Winston. There's some other veteran quarterbacks around. But, you know, Flacco, the one thing that he can do is get the ball down the field to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. And you got those two guys. I mean, he better be able to block for him because he's not mobile, which the Bengals can't do. But, you know, I expect him to uncork some deep balls to Chase and Higgins on Sunday. He didn't play that well against the Packers. They held him in check, and if you think about the one touchdown they had, they started on the 4-yard line on that drive. So I don't think he presents a huge threat, but I do think he could probably hit him for a couple of big plays.
Now, as we look at this team, now that the bye week is over, Ryan, just for you, what have you learned early on? No team is a finished product in September or October, we get that, but what have you learned early on about this group?
Well, I'm going to hit on Flacco first.
Go ahead.
You know, I think that defending Joe Flacco throwing to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins is entirely different than playing Cleveland Browns Joe Flacco. I mean, that's same quarterback, but it's not the same passer, right? So that you have to keep that in mind. I think for the Bengals, long term, that might be a move that gives them at least a shot because of what Spoon said about getting it out to your playmakers. I also think that this is just a really bad week for them to start with this experiment. One, and I get, maybe to your point, they had other options. I asked Matt LaFleur about Joe Flacco learning an offense on short notice, and he's like the one guy in the league that you don't worry about that with because he's seen everything. He's been in everything. He's played longer than Methuselah. So that's not a concern, but that offensive line sure is. You know, if he's going to throw it down the field to T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, you've got to be able to protect long enough. I don't know how that offensive line can do that against this pass rush, which, hey, what did Dak Prescott do? He got rid of the ball quick, right? He wasn't. There weren't a lot of throwing down the field. The one I can remember is in overtime, but otherwise there's a lot of just dink and dunk and just get rid of the ball fast. The way that this pass rush made Jaden Daniels, made Jared Goff look at home, now you have a Joe Flacco behind a very bad Bengals offensive line. I think that's a problem for them in a way that I think long-term, very differently, that might give them a shot to kind of stem the tide a little bit because they had to do something. Jake Browning he wasn't just – like at the very least you need a backup quarterback like Malik Willis did last year for the Packers to manage a game, give yourselves a chance to win. They had no chance with him, by the way he was throwing the ball to the other team, just costing them games.
What told you all you needed to know was Jamar Chase was like the leading tackler on that team. That tells you all you need to know about the turnovers from Jake Brown.
He's got 5 tackles this season.
I think it was horrid. It's hard to explain how bad that offense had become with Jake Browning. Now, I don't think that this is like a magic elixir for this week because I just don't know how. I made the same remark before the Browns game, and like I remember going to the stadium that morning with Pete Doherty. We're in the back seat, guys up front. We all drive together because we like each other, and we were talking. Yeah, you can look around all you want, Dominique. So we're talking we're like, God, you wonder if he's going to get injured today. Like, that's kind of like the feeling of, like, how are they going to keep him not just, like, upright but healthy? And, of course, they did, right? I kind of had the same feeling with this Bengals offensive line. It's like this pass, it's just going to be relentless. I don't think that bodes well for them. But long term, yes. To your question, as far as what we've learned, I have a hard time. We've learned that the special teams is very poor. And I mean, that's the one thing I feel definitively about. Like, it is a bad special teams. It needs to get better. And I'm not saying it won't get better, but it is not good. I don't know that we've learned all that much else. I do feel like the pendulum after Cleveland and Dallas, just my pulse of the fan base, has swung too far maybe in the pessimistic direction. Because I think that if you were to pick one scenario or the other, last year's team, which beat the teams it was supposed to, but had absolutely no chance against the good teams. They were 0-6 against the Eagles, the Vikings, the Lions. They could not beat the best teams. It was very clear there was not a small sample size. That's 6 games, 0-6. Or a team that has shown you that it can beat anybody, that it can stomp the Lions, that it can stomp the Commanders. I think you would take this team, even with those bad losses, the bad loss and the bad tie, because ultimately what you are in this league is who you can beat. This team can beat anyone. So I think that we've learned that at least. Like, that's a difference from 2024 is that they can beat those teams. But they also have to, yes, play better, and they should be 4-0 right now, and they're not.
Yeah. I think, Spoon, your column kind of summed it up. Like, if this team wants to play, championship-winning football, it does come down to, the coaching, the making the right decisions, and the players, getting the job done.
Well, I don't know that the players haven't been getting the job done. There's a couple of guys who failed on the field goal kick block, and that cost them games. But I don't think their defense has been bad. Their defense has been really good. Yeah. I thought that the problem was, after they lost Devontae Wyatt in the Dallas game, they didn't have a plan to handle the run game or get some pressure on Prescott, and I just didn't think they adjusted. And so that's on Halfley to me. I mean, yeah, he's scared about his corners, and that's a little bit a reflection on the talent they have there. But there wasn't a good adjustment. Then you have the special teams issue. I mean, those kind of things are bad. You can't have that happen to you 2 weeks in a row, and that's a coaching thing. So you have to have the right people in the right place. And then thirdly, what happened at the end of the Dallas game and the end of the first half and the fourth quarter with the Cleveland game was, those kind of things get coaches fired. I don't think Matt LaFleur deserves to be fired. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. But does that mean he's not at fault for, this 2-game kind of valley? Absolutely not. He has to take some of the blame because I think they're getting enough performance out of their players to win, to be 4-0. They should be 4-0, and they're not.
Yeah. As a follow-up, though, as far as with special teams, I thought it was fascinating. You went into the locker room. You talked to some of those veteran guys, Elton Jenkins, some guys that said, hey, if I need to be out there in field goal protection or whatever it is, I'll do it. What were some of your takeaways just in talking to some of those guys?
The biggest thing that they said was, those plays lose games. Yeah. And, they score points, and they cost us points. Bullard said that. Jenkins said that, Aaron Banks said that, Zane Anderson said that. You can't be losing points on special teams. At best, you want to just be flat, 0-0, whatever. Yeah.
Do no harm.
Tie game, right?
Do no harm.
Do no harm.
Yeah.
And they're having negative plays. Plus, when have they had a positive play other than Daniel Whelan punting?
Keyshawn Nixon's touchdown return for kickoff in 2022.
Yeah, was that the last time? Yeah.
That's the last positive play I can remember.
Yeah. Can you remember last time they forced a fumble?
No.
They haven't forced a single fumble this season, so
did they
even
last year?
defense.
I don't really remember.
Outside of the game winners from McManus,
No,
like,
they
those
had
are some
they
only
had,
like highlighted type.
They had
plays,
two.
but
They had
nothing
two
else.
muffed punts last year. One against the Vikings. One against the early against the Dolphins. That I
Those
remember.
aren't forced
but
fumbles,
those are not
right?
forced fumbles.
That
No.
muffs are not forced fumbles. So I mean, and think about it. What have they had? Well, Keyshawn Nixon's fumble in the playoff game that was a killer. I don't. They've just not had positive plays that you can hang your head on, and so I think at best what they need to do is have a stalemate from this point on. If they have a stalemate on special teams from this point on, they got a chance to be a pretty good team.
Because they're good enough on offense and defense at that point, right? Just be a net par. The best special teams play that has been made this season so far, in this young season, is Brandon McManus' 53-yard field goal to send the game to overtime in Dallas. And it's the best because you know as the kicker that you're having some real problems in front of you.
Yeah.
And now you're staring down a 53-yarder with the game on the line that if you miss it, you lose, and it's 2 straight losses. You're 2-2 after that hot start instead of 4-0, and he puts it through the uprights. But by the same token, that should not be the highlight of your special teams play through 4 games either. Like, that's a 53-yard field goal in a league that everyone's making 53-yard field goals like they're extra points. Like now, 65-yard field goal is what's considered long, right? So it was a good play, but it should not be the best play.
No.
That's the issue.
Like I said, do no harm. That's the best way to sum it up on special teams. Obviously, don't get kicks blocked. Don't give up 45-yard returns late in the game.
In the start of or at the end of the fourth quarter.
Yeah, it's like if you don't give up that,
give up a 45-yard return.
and that situation, and your kicker is making tackles. Like when your kicker is making tackles in that situation, something happened in your coverage. So there's just so many of those little things that you can't let happen. Yeah, Matt LaFleur calls them catastrophic mistakes, and you just can't allow those to happen because even as like I was going to say, even like with Cleveland, as bad as the offense was, you still could have been like, okay, it was a rough game, but you found a way to win if your special teams would at least help you some. Go ahead.
What have you guys thought about his response to the special teams problems the past couple of weeks? How he's addressed it publicly, who knows privately, but publicly, and what changes he is and is not willing to make.
I will say it was fascinating to hear him flat out say they got punked on special teams. He was, very candid in that regard. And the biggest thing for me that I'm curious about, and I think even you made the point of, like, what the relationship between Bisaccia and LaFleur in terms of, does he ever go to him like, hey, I would love to have this guy on special teams, and he says no, or that's a big thing I'm worried about is that relationship. But my big takeaway is that he was pretty forthcoming that they got punked on special teams.
Yeah, and mine was that he offered no solutions, zero. I gave him several options.
Yes, you did.
Are you
Yes, you did.
use practice time? Are you going to use more veterans? Are you more starters?
Yeah.
He provided nothing, and he is usually open about their mistakes. And but what it tells me is that they just said, okay, let's do better. Let's look at the mistakes. He did say, we shuffled some things around, and they did. They brought in Jenkins. They brought in Carl Brooks, who when I asked him, are you going to be playing special? Are you okay with being on that blocking unit? And he's like, he wasn't saying I wouldn't do it, but he's saying, I'm like a plug-in. That's not what I do. And he's right. But if they need them, they got to use them. Yeah. And I assume with, when they started the season, they were using every offensive lineman except Jenkins on the field goal block, and there were no problems, right? So they lose Tom, and they lose Jenkins, and they lose, not Jenkins, Tom Banks, and then Belton, too, who was on those units. But then you got to use Jenkins until one of those guys comes back. And, they used Stackhouse one time. It just seemed like they didn't really know who could hold up and who couldn't. And they thought that, to put Brant Banks and Luke Musgrave next to each other, when you know there's there could be a 6-man rush coming, that to me was mind-blowing because, one, the guy's a rookie. He had played, I think in the opener he might have played, or I think that's when he got elevated Brent Banks. But, he didn't know what he was doing. And Musgrave is still waiting to block his first guy, of all time. So that's what I mean about coaching. Some of those things are, you're looking back on it and say, I'm second-guessing them, it's after the fact. But that's what their job is to predict that those kind of things might happen.
It's given me the impression of when you might be a little too close to the trees to see the full forest, right? What do we know about Matt LaFleur? He's a very, very good offensive play caller, and that is his baby, that is his bread and butter, and that is what he digs himself into every single week, and it works for this offense. He is very good at that, but there's so much else that goes into being a head coach, and it kind of feels at special teams right now that it's the epitome of the meme where the dog is sitting inside a fiery room and saying this is fine, and it's not that Matt LaFleur is saying this is fine, but his approach has basically been, well, if you can just, not have the blocked field goal, the blocked extra point, it's all pretty good. That doesn't matter. That's the fire. Your room is on fire. That should not happen. That is the indication that things are burning to the ground.
Yeah.
And for it to happen back-to-back weeks, okay, fine. Everything else might be good. Maybe Brandon McManus did make a 53-yard field goal to send the game to overtime on the road. That doesn't matter. Until that doesn't happen, nothing else good matters because that's what loses you games. So you have to, and you're right, Spoon. You broached a lot of possibilities. Like you have to try anything, everything, all at once until that stops happening because that's the only thing that matters.
Yeah, no. Go ahead.
I was going to say. One of the things, so LaFleur's a play-calling head coach.
Right.
So as soon as the game goes into overtime, he's got to get in his play sheet. He's not thinking as much about the kickoff or who to put in on special teams. That's Bisaccia's job. Or someone needs to be with him doing some of that stuff. Now, Bisaccia's the assistant head coach. I don't know what his role is. I don't know if LaFleur lets people tell him, what to do. But when you're the play caller and you need to get away and think about what you're going to do in overtime, you got to have somebody there who can take over the team responsibilities and at least run it by you or, hey, I think we should, instead of Savion Williams, I think we should put in Keyshawn Nixon. What do you think? Or something like that.
Yeah.
Now, Dominic, I don't want to steal this thunder from you. So we were talking about Matt LaFleur at practice this week. And what did you say about him?
As far as a coach?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was fascinating, because we talked about the fans and how they're pessimistic, saying fire LaFleur. I was like, he would have another job by the time he reached the parking lot.
Yes.
Like, he has proven that he can win and go to championships. No question about it. There's still much more out there. Like, if you're saying, okay, he's not as good as some of the other, like the Andy Reids or the Mike Tomlin, whatever, I'll give you that. But clearly what he's done in 7 years as a head coach is good, and he's accomplished a lot. Yes, there is some of the game management stuff and some of those other, things that are still.
Think Tennessee wouldn't hire him in a New York Minute.
Matt LaFleur.
That's what I literally brought that point up.
Matt LaFleur would be the number one candidate.
Arizona.
He'd be the number one candidate for any team with a young quarterback looking to develop. He would be number one,
like you said,
on the sheet.
Tennessee, Cam Ward. Like, the Titans would sign him up immediately.
Half of Aaron Rodgers' MVPs.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you were right. Yeah.
Half of Aaron Rodgers' MVPs came with Matt LaFleur. He developed Jordan Love into, he is playing, I'm sure we'll get into this later, he's putting up MVP potential numbers. Like, that's what he's doing. He would be the number one candidate for any team with a young quarterback that they need to develop. He's also a good head coach. He's also a coach that, to Spoon's point, needs to be better at game management. So not. I feel like so many times in sports, especially, we just operate in extremes. If you're not great, you're terrible. Like, there's no in between. Matt LaFleur is a very good head coach. He needs to get better at game management. That's the reality with him. Yes. But I didn't want to steal that from you. You're absolutely right. He would have a new job if he wanted one before he left the parking lot. That is Matt LaFleur. There is so much worse out there.
Yeah, and you have to, if you're a fan, and you're allowed your opinion, of course you are, but you can think that Matt LaFleur is a bad play caller, but in general, people judge the success of certain plays in certain situations. If it doesn't work, he's a bad play caller. If it works, he's a great play caller. Matt LaFleur is respected around the league. And, I think Pete made reference to it. There was a story in The Athletic where they asked coaches around the league to rank, play callers, and he was very highly rated. And it doesn't excuse him for times like you and I disagree, but that Cleveland game, I still think he should have run the ball at the end. It doesn't excuse him from those things, but let's not say just because the offense is struggling or has struggled that he's a bad play caller. That's just, you don't know, none of us know the ins and outs of what he's trying to set up, what he's seeing from the defense. Really most coaches, so at the end of the Dallas game, in the overtime, now, they screwed up the game management, but the plays, he gave us information that most coaches wouldn't, which is that the plays didn't work because the Cowboys came out in a different, defense than he thought they would. Most cases, we wouldn't know that. If it was Bill Belichick, he's not telling us that he screwed up or he didn't
get it
right. Yeah. Most guys would not be that honest. Yeah. So we're finding out, okay, screwed up. But that happens, I think, all the time during the course of a game. And, it didn't work. The time management was the most critical thing, not the fact that they couldn't score. At some point, they need to score in those situations. But Aaron Rodgers didn't score in those situations every single time. He didn't score in an NFC Championship game down inside the 5-yard line. Oh, yeah.
Was he 2 for 10? 2 for 10 on goal to go scenarios. I remember you writing about that after the game.
Yeah, I don't even remember. That's how bad that was. But I do remember he got 3 shots and he didn't get him in there. Yeah. So that's my little rant about it. Yeah. I absolutely, Matt LaFleur is open to criticism on a lot of things. But play calling, I don't have a huge problem with.
Play calling, no. Game management, yes. I mean, that to me is the fair critique. The fair critique is not that he's not a bad play caller. He needs to be better at game management.
Yeah, it's that simple. But, yeah, like you said, it is funny dealing with Packers fans sometimes because I would always – my joke is – that's right. I forgot McCarthy won 6 Super Bowls when he coached the Packers. Home, like all these others before LaFleur won 6 Super Bowls.
Were the same from McCarthy of McCarthy. That he couldn't call plays, and Mike McCarthy's a very good play caller. Yeah, success is what determines how you're rated, and fans have every right to be fans, and they have every right to say the guy's a lousy play caller. And I just want to add some perspective to that.
Absolutely, because is Andy Reid all of a sudden a bad coach and play caller because the Chiefs have struggled a little bit to start the season? So that's how I usually always like to view it. So let's move on. Let's talk some more about getting ready for this weekend's game. And the biggest thing is, it's funny, we did talk about special teams. We didn't even touch on Brandon McManus yet after suffering the quad injury in practice on October 8th. We're taping this on Thursday, so that happened on Wednesday. And it was funny because, or ironic though, when we looked at the injury report, we thought it might have been from the 2 tackles in Dallas because he was a little slow to get up.
After one of them.
He was down for a minute, so I was like, oh boy, your kicker is hurt in this situation. But he said it happened in practice. On Thursday, he was out there. He didn't have a helmet on, but he was just watching Daniel Whelan's holds or Zach's long snaps just to, I guess, monitor it with Mark McNamee very close by watching. first off, what are your thoughts and just takeaways so far on that?
Yeah. Well, he looked in Thursday's practice. He looked like a guy who was preparing to kick. I mean, he was definitely mentally preparing. They were not mentally preparing McNamee. Now, maybe later in practice they were. We don't know what they do once they kick us out. But he was clearly working with Whelan. They were talking about the holds. He was lining up. He was taking a step. I think in his mind he thinks he's going to kick. Now we'll talk to him, I'm sure, later today. But I wouldn't rule him out. If he can't kick, McNamee, it's a whole new animal to kick in the NFL. But the guy did pretty well in camp. I went back and looked, and I think he was 20 of 25 in practice. And he was 1 of 2 in the Colts game, and he did not kick in the final exhibition game. So, I went and looked at practice. He didn't kick a ton of long ones, but he had a 56-yarder. Sometimes you have to kick with a guy. Some teams have kicked with punters. So I don't think it's the end of the world. He kicked off really well in the preseason. Every single one of his kickoffs in the Seattle game went into the end zone. If it comes down to a game-winning kick against the Bengals, they got bigger problems than their kicker.
That's the other thing,
put.
right?
Well put.
Anything, Ryan?
I mean, on the whole, the last thing in the world this special teams needs is now, there's an injury to the kicking leg of Brandon McManus. I mean, you want to talk about the definition of when it rains, it pours. There you go. On the other hand, I don't know. I have the Packers winning 34-9. So if it comes down to a field goal, my God,
34-9.
That's a problem.
34-9.
I don't even I'm not even going to be secretive on my I think the Packers should absolutely stomp the Bengals. There's not much reason here to think that the Bengals are going to come into Lambeau Field and make it a game. And if they do, my goodness, that's a real problem.
Yeah, true. But that's the thing we've talked a lot about with this team. Can you just put a team away? Can you drop 30, 40 points, not look back and keep it moving? I want to see if they can do that. They can score 40, but they can give up 40. So that's what I'm really interested in watching with this team.
They should be taking Mark McNamee, if he's the kicker, out of the game. You know what I mean? Scoring up points, that is not a fact. Doesn't matter if he misses 3 extra points. Just take him out of the game.
This should be a practice for your 2-point conversion this week. Who can? This should not be a game. They open as 14.5-point favorites.
They do.
Yeah.
That never happens. That is an insane amount. That's an insane amount. That's what this should be. And if it's not, it is not because the fact that you have a kicking issue, that should not matter this week.
Absolutely. It's kind of bouncing off McManus and looking at some of the other injuries. Another one popped up, Rasheed Walker at left tackle. And Ryan, again, you talk about not stealing thunder. You said the O-line, they just can't really catch a break. They invested, as you said, a lot of money into it. And that is the dude.
They spent a lot of money on that offensive line this offseason. The one thing they cannot buy is a break.
Yeah, so
he did practice, right? He
stayed inside.
He stayed inside
today.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Rashid stayed inside.
I thought I saw him. Okay.
Nope. He was inside the Hudson side.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's an issue.
Another quad. Yeah, another quad injury he's dealing with, and obviously in hearing from LaFleur doesn't seem very optimistic with Anthony Belton. And then Zach Tom and Aaron Banks, they have practice, going through padded practice. Go ahead.
On Rasheed Walker, I know he was inside the Hudson Center because I expected him to be out, and I'm walking by. You know how they have those open doors, and I just happened to notice off my left peripheral inside. It's 63's in there.
I saw him.
That's how I saw him.
I saw him talking to LaFleur before LaFleur went out. So they were probably are you going to be good? Do you need to just... So we'll see about that. But they won't have Devontae Wyatt, and that's going to be the big issue.
That is the biggest one. So I bet say we can bounce off that as well. Just, what is next for these D tackles and just in that running game, because we talked a lot about Wyatt when healthy. He's been really good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to think. Chase Brown, the Bengals, who was a really good running back last year, he's averaging 2.2 yards a carry. And so I don't know whether that'll be their plan is to just run at the hole where Devontae Wyatt was. Someone's got to step in there. Maybe Nazir Stackhouse. Maybe it's time for him to play 40 snaps. Who knows?
Yeah.
But that's not a guy that's easy to replace. But injuries happen, and you better figure out a way to do it.
Yeah. Ryan, just anything as far as with the D-tackle situation? Because, I mean, you even brought up yourself how when Micah Parsons talked about the impact of not having Wyatt. So, thoughts on just the D-tackle room and, what they need to try to do in this game.
I asked Micah Parsons after Dallas, they're inside Jerry's world, what happened with the defense? Because first 25 minutes you give up nothing, and then you couldn't stop anything, and he's Devontae Wyatt. There was very clearly a line of demarcation before Devontae Wyatt got injured and after Devontae Wyatt got injured. So you can't blame it on injuries because that's part of the game, but it mattered a lot.
Yeah.
This is a Bengals offensive line it should not matter against. This Packers defensive front, with or without Devontae Wyatt, should absolutely blister this Bengals offensive line. Everyone else has been doing that. That should be the expectation. And if they don't, that's similar to special teams, right? Similar to this going in this game with the kicking question. Like if they don't, that's a pretty big concern, even without Devontae Wyatt.
Absolutely.
The Bengals did open the practice window for Lucas Patrick, who has played for the Packers and just about every other team in the NFL. Long time, scrappy guy.
Yeah,
but
very scrappy.
I don't think that's going to make the biggest difference in the world if he plays.
Speaking of practice windows that are open, another great segue.
There you go. Nice. I see what y'all did there. Nice.
What about Christian Watson? So it was 274 days after an ACL injury and surgery. He is back practicing, and again, that by itself is pretty remarkable. And he said that he has felt good and no limitations in his cutting and route running. And it seems like Matt LaFleur, as he said, they'll gradually increase the workload. Spoon, just thoughts on seeing him into the mix at this time?
I would play him.
This week.
Yes, I would play him this week. I wouldn't necessarily throw him the ball, but I would, if I'm LaFleur, I want to see how teams react to him being on the field.
Like a decoy.
Yeah. I want to see if they're going to
That's good.
Float help over to his side. Are they going to let him go one-on-one till he proves he can go deep? I think it would be throw him out there for 15 plays, 10 plays, 15 plays, and you don't have to throw him the ball. Just figure out a way to let him clear out a side and see how that works especially with Matthew Golden. Put them next to each other. Do something like that, and I think that'd be fine. I think Christian Watson's been ready to play since April. I think they just made sure it was the 9 months. Because he came back 9 months and a day after the surgery, and he said he's been running in the Hudson Center, right? Running routes at the same speed. You don't want to sit there and throw him a bunch of screen passes so he's getting, hammered all the time. But, I would play him.
That'd be great. I think it is fascinating, too, Ryan, because I want to get your thoughts as well. Because I remember during training camp, we would just stand on the sideline and we'd look across the field and see Christian Watson just dead sprint on the sideline. And I'm just like it's ridiculous after a major surgery. He's been doing this for months now. What were your takeaways in talking to him in the locker room? And, I know even Matthew Golden made comments as well. Just, your comments and thoughts on just what he said and just having him just at least in the practice mix right now.
I'm inclined to say I would not play him. Now, here's the thing. I don't know really what practice looks like for him. Like if he's been actually good to go since April, he's taken team reps this week, and he shows every single indication, both medically and football wise, which are two different things, that he's 100%. Okay, that might be different. I just conceptually have a hard time believing that could actually happen. Like, he didn't have an off-season program. He did not have any training camp. He is just back to practice this week. He did not have team reps on Monday. Correct. We don't know. I imagine he'll have a few this week at minimum. But you need Christian Watson to be Christian Watson late in the season. You don't need him this week. I would if it was me, I'd be more comfortable just giving him the week to practice, getting back acclimated, just getting back into that routine. And if he handles all that fine, which I imagine he will because he's handled everything else fine, next week is more the week of. Now, the only issue with that is, of course, it's turf, right, in Arizona?
Isn't it grass? Don't they have
Is
that
it grass?
thing that moves in and out of the stadium? I always forget now.
I
They
do
used
too.
to have the thing where the whole surface moves outside, on rollers.
Robert Tunyon's torn an ACL in that stadium.
Yeah, I would need to look that up again because I can't remember.
But at that point, at some point, you just need to play. I would be surprised. I don't think I would do it, but it's hard for me to say for sure without actually seeing what he looks like in practice, how many team reps he's taken, that sort of thing. Maybe he's just a unicorn. Maybe it's an anomaly of a guy that can actually do that. I don't know for sure.
Yeah, we'll find out. But there's also the point of if you're only going to play him 10 plays, who do you sit? Who's going to be your guy that isn't going to play?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, kind of like that healthy scratch or
yeah,
something.
yeah. I mean, you have to put somebody off the game day roster, and so if he's only playing 10 spots, that's probably a special teams guy that you won't have.
Christian Watson was asked point blank if he wanted to play this week on Monday or what he thought about playing this week, and you could tell just the indecision of of course I want to play. I haven't played since 9 months. I really want to play, but is that stupid?
Right.
Let's be smart. And I mean, can we just remark on, I guess, the surprise of all the players who have had a seamless ACL recovery to this point, it being Christian Watson, whose career has been anything but seamless with injuries. I mean, when that happened against the Bears last year, I'm thinking here it goes again, another injury. This one the worst. This guy cannot stay healthy, and through no fault of his own, because he went down to Madison and to the Badger Athletic Complex and a medical complex, and he tried to figure this out. He's done everything right. He just can't stay healthy. Yeah. And now you got an ACL. This could be really, really bad. And 9 months and a day later, here he is practicing. Good for him. You'd love to see that for anybody. I don't know. I would just I'd be a little cautious. I think I'd put him in next week.
I don't think the fear is that he's going to tear his ACL again. I think the fear or the question is, can he protect himself? Mm-hmm. Is he in sync running routes with Jordan Love? Is that worth putting him out there? Because at this point he's done all the rehab, and his leg and knee are probably in better shape than they were when he tore it.
Right.
But you don't want him taking some hit because he's not used to taking a hit. He needs to have some contact. So that would be the reason to probably sit him down.
That's where I'm saying the football and the medical are two very different things. Medically, he might be good. I just let him play a little bit of football before he's actually out there taking live bullets to me. It just less than a full week of team reps and then putting him. I wonder if he needs a little more football first.
They're not desperate for him to play either.
Right.
I mean, they scored 40 points last week without him. So, yeah, that point is well taken.
That is the biggest thing about this Packers offense. I think that's why, even when I'm asked about it, I still have such a big question mark, because we have yet to see this team together. You still haven't seen Christian Watson. Jaden Reed isn't here yet. You haven't seen all the offensive linemen yet. There's so many other pieces that, who knows what it'll look like when it all comes together, but you just haven't had the chance to see that yet. So it's going to be fascinating.
I'm going to push back a little bit because we saw them in the first 2 weeks. Jaden Reed played until he got hurt in the Washington game. The offensive line, remember how good they were against Detroit and Washington? It wasn't until Tom got hurt in practice, I think.
No, he got hurt in the game.
He got hurt in the opener.
It was the first half.
The opener.
Yeah.
Oh, it was in the opener?
Yeah.
Okay. It was late in the opener for Tom.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Banks might have come. Oh, Banks played half against Cleveland. Okay. Yeah. So I thought we saw glimpses of what that offense could be in the first game. Particularly, the only thing I need to see from them that, in my mind, is how they perform again with that offensive line. If they got that offensive line back, I want to see if they do what they did to Detroit, which was they were able to run the ball, they moved the ball, they protected Love. He had all day in that game. That's kind of what I want to see.
To your point, when they have all their playmakers back, there is going to be a lot of mouths to feed. There are already a lot of mouths to feed, even without Jaden Reed and Christian Watson. But then you add those two. And I also feel like with this offense, and I asked Jordan Love about this, and he gave some sort of answer, but I feel like they're more. This is a few years in with a lot of the same supporting cast pieces. I know Matthew Gold and Savion Williams are new, but he's had a few years with these guys, enough for them to develop, them to mature together, and for him to kind of know like which guys and which situations he really wants to go to. Like this has been an egalitarian passing game for the past 3 seasons. It spreads the ball all over the field. I do wonder if they're getting more and more to the point where you really want to incorporate focusing on certain matchups, a.k.a. Tucker Kraft, as much as possible. And instead of just being strictly what we saw when they were really good in 2023, what was it? It was, this is the concept on offense. What is the defense doing and what is it giving? And then go there. Almost like clockwork. Like it was schematically based, and that's what they did. I think the time is coming to really start showcasing certain matchups, featuring certain guys, because not all guys are the same in this offense, even if they do have a lot of mouths to feed.
Yeah. Speaking of Kraft, I won't shut up about that. He's got to get the ball. Like you got to find.
He's one of the best tight ends in the NFL.
He is.
Yeah, but you have to remember that without Zach Tom, they're keeping him in quite a bit.
Yeah.
And same with, Rasheed Walker hasn't been playing his best. They've really needed him to do that.
Yeah.
But when they're healthy on the offensive line, he has to have 6-7 targets a game. Yeah. I also think I agree that I think they need to develop more play action stuff to him, but I also think they need to develop Josh Jacobs in the passing game. I think there's a lot to be accomplished with Josh Jacobs because he's really good after the catch. You know how many tackles he breaks, and they're without Jaden Reed and they're without Watson. They're two biggest playmakers. So hey, maybe you need to just start spreading it around a little bit or I shouldn't say spread it around. Focus it a little bit more to Kraft and Jacobs.
You know what I like about that? What's the one through line that connects those two players? Physicality.
Yeah.
Right? That's their play style. They don't just want to make plays. They want to punch you in the mouth every single time they're doing it, which is what you also kind of want to be on offense too, right? And that's a feeling this organization has had offensively since Philadelphia, coming back after the playoff loss. I'm getting very animated.
Drop the mic,
I'm being physical with the microphone.
That's right.
They want to be more physical. Well, your two best playmakers right now are two physical guys, Josh Jacobs and Tucker Kraft. So I think that works out well in that way.
Yeah. I guess as we wrap this up, are there any final thoughts? I know maybe on the Bengals defense. I mean, they still have Trey Hendrickson. They still have some guys over there to keep an eye out on. Anything
Don't
just on
forget
that?
T.J. Slayton. T.J.
That's
Slayton's
true.
in the middle of that defense.
That's true.
He's not going to be. He's going to be pretty fired up to play this game, and he'll be, gumming up the run in the middle. It's a extremely winnable game, just like the Cleveland game was.
Yeah.
So what does that tell you? They should win by a lot, but I thought they were going to win by a lot against Cleveland, and they didn't. So
They did. That was why I had to backtrack on my prediction because I had a pretty lopsided one against Cleveland. Then I said, okay, I'm not doing that again yet.
No, I doubled down. I think at the end of the day, I have to believe what I see, and what I see is an extremely talented team that has not put it all together yet and needs to be better at executing. But the talent's not in question. They have a lot of talent, and they should absolutely stomp the Bengals. Like, there's no question. There's no excuse not to do that. So I'm not going to give them an excuse. I'm going to predict that they do that 34-9. And if they don't, there's some serious problems here, right? Like, that's the way it is. That's the reality to me.
Yeah. So now you get ready for Sunday. So, guys, thank you as always. And
I do want to say before
I was about to say we'll wrap it up for sure. And I was just going to say, Spoon, thank you for saying 6'7".
Yeah.
Even though you didn't do the hand gesture.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I'll show you what that is afterward.
Oh, okay.
Have you heard of the 6'7"? No? Okay.
see,
I've only done that because I have 3 kids, a 13-year-old and 11-year-old twins, and it won't let me forget. Plus Dom, who's the 4th kid.
I'll
That
show
won't let
you
me
what
forget.
after. But yeah, so Ryan, this weekend you will be a healthy scratch. You will not
scratch.
be here, but you'll be a healthy scratch.
And I want to thank you guys because, at the end of we are a team, and I wouldn't be able to actually not be at Lambeau Field on Sunday if not for you guys. I'll be driving back from Columbus, Ohio. This weekend, actually, I counted it up. It would have been my 200th straight Packers game that I have covered. And instead, I will be the wedding officiant for 2 of my very dear friends, Haley B. Miller and Nat Shuda. Haley B. Miller, a former reporter at the Green Bay Press-Gazette. Nat Shuda, the former editor at the Oshkosh Northwestern. They're getting married Saturday, and I want to be standing on stage with them, and extremely looking forward to that. But I am not. It's not lost on me that we all have a lot to do through the week, and especially on game day. And when there's a part of our team missing, it's more work on you guys. So I appreciate you guys stepping up this week. I know it's not easy, but when they asked me to be their wedding officiant, it is one of the honors of my lifetime. So very much looking forward to that. Very few things around here are bigger than game day football with Packers, but this is one of them.
Yeah, the only reason why I'm not DJing the wedding because we couldn't be down 2 guys for this game. So it was cool to meet them in Cleveland, and it'll be a lot of fun. And yes, Spoon, we'll just try to survive this weekend. I don't know.
Hey, never forget that I'm ordained. Yeah.
Nice.
I know. Of all the
There you go.
Keep that in mind.
yeah, we'll just make a mental note of that. So the only thing, I would have probably just sung the 6'7" rap song at the wedding. That would have been the slow.
I got to get away from you, man. This 6'7", he puts it in my head, and Dominique hangs out with my kids and I. We, go to cross country meets and whatnot. And
That's right.
They just the whole 6'7" thing, when the 4 of you guys get together, I can't get away from it.
Yes.
And so I gave him a wink when you said 6'7". Like, okay, all right.
So it's time to wrap up this press conference or this podcast, so I can let Spoon learn all about 6'7". So come this weekend when we do the pod, he'll just do this after the game. So thank you guys so much as always, and thank you for checking out the Green 19 podcast. For Ryan Wood, Tom Silverstein, I'm Dominique Yates.